What if the most reliable foods on Earth aren't in seed catalogs at all, but already waiting quietly under your soil? Some of them feed you for 12 months straight. Some store themselves, no cellar, no freezer, no canning jars, just patience. And many are so common that you've probably walked past one this week without even noticing. In this Family Yard Kitchen Guide, we're exploring 16 crops that build true food security, even in small yards or rented plots. Each one keeps producing when space, money, or weather turn against you. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll know which plants can feed your family calmly, year after year, without starting over each spring. When food prices rise or shelves feel thinner, the families who already grow something, anything, sleep easier. They're not chasing perfection or prepping for collapse. They're simply building a rhythm, soil that feeds itself, meals that come from 10 steps out the door. That's what we focus on here at Family Yard Kitchen. Real food, grown in real backyards. No hype, no miracle promises, just small, steady habits that outlast uncertainty. This list isn't about the usual suspects like tomatoes or corn. It's about crops that thrive on neglect, that store their own harvest, and that multiply quietly when no one's looking. Most of them are perennials, meaning you plant once, then harvest for years. Others are annuals that reseed so dependably they might as well be permanent. If you're working with a small yard or even a patio garden, you'll still find options here. Think of this as a menu for resilience, foods that keep giving when time and resources are tight. Let's start underground, with the crops that feed you while you sleep, roots that store themselves, nature's own pantry. Imagine a sunflower that hides its treasure beneath the soil. That's a sunchoke, a tall, cheerful plant with golden blooms in summer and knobby tubers below. Plant it once, and it comes back every year, multiplying quietly through the seasons. When frost hits, those tubers rest underground, ready to dig up as needed, no root cellar required. They taste like a potato and artichoke, slightly nutty and sweet. They're rich in inulin, a prebiotic fiber that supports good gut health. Just a few handfuls can flavor soups or roast beautifully beside chicken. Give them a patch they can claim. They'll spread fast, and you'll never worry about losing the line to seed shortages again. In hard times, a crop that replants itself is a quiet kind of gold. Next comes a crop most gardeners have never heard of. Scorzona, sometimes called black salsify, looks like a long, dark carrot. It's slow to grow, but incredibly forgiving. Plant in spring, mulch heavily, and by winter you can dig sweet oyster-flavored roots whenever you need them. They actually taste better after frost, when starch turns to sugar. And unlike most roots, Scorzona can stay in the ground for months, its own natural storage vault. In a calm household rhythm, that means one less thing to preserve or refrigerate. Boiled, mashed, or added to stews, it carries a faint artichoke flavor families grow to love. For those gardening with kids, the harvest feels like buried treasure, each black root a reward for patience. Now we travel to the Andes for something both beautiful and practical. Mashua is a vining cousin of the nasturtium, producing fiery orange flowers and spicy sweet tubers beneath. It's planted in late summer and dug up after the first frost, giving you food when most gardens are fading. The tubers taste like a radish and a potato, excellent roasted or sliced thin and fried. Even better, the leaves and blossoms are edible too, adding color to salads. Mashua dislikes heat but loves cool weather, thriving where others fail. And those peppery compounds that give it a bite also make it naturally pest-resistant, a living shield for nearby plants. Store the harvest in a cool, dark space and it lasts for months. In a small yard system, that's a big win. One plant, many meals, little effort. Our last root in this cluster is as joyful as it looks. Oca produces jewel-toned tubers, pink, yellow, orange, that shine like candy in the soil. They're tangy when fresh, but turn sweeter after a few days in the sun. Plant in spring, harvest in late fall, and you'll finally store easily for the entire winter. Oca tolerates poor soil and shrugs off most pests because it's unrelated to common potatoes. And when you roast them, the color and flavor feel festive, bright, lemony, and full of life. For families teaching kids about food security, Oca is a gentle lesson. Beauty, nutrition, and resilience can grow quietly side by side, no supermarket required. 4 roots, 4 ways nature keeps food safe underground until you're ready. Plant them once, tend them lightly, and the soil itself becomes your storage room. Silent, dependable, alive. All right, next we'll move above ground to crops that never stop giving. The greens that come back every season, no matter what. If roots are nature's pantry, then perennials are her quiet promise. These are the greens that return every spring, long before you're ready, full of color, minerals, and relief from winter meals. They don't ask for replanting or fertilizer. They just wait for you. In the rhythm of family life, that's priceless. Food you can forget about for months, then greet like an old friend. Most of us know kale as an annual crop. Plant, pick, replant. But perennial kale changes everything. You tuck in a small cutting once, and it keeps producing for 5 to 8 years through heat, frost, and neglect. The leaves stay tender longer than regular kale, never rushing to flower or bolt. It's the perfect grab-and-go green for busy weeks. Just harvest a handful for a stir-fry or soup. Even after hard freezes, perennial kale bounces back with new shoots by early spring. Families love it because it's forgiving. If you forget to water, it forgives. If a child snaps off a branch, that cutting can start another plant. It turns gardening from a chore into a cycle. Food, compost, food again. And that's the beauty of true perennials. They don't just feed you, they teach you patience. If kale is your anchor, Turkish rocket is your spark. This plant looks unassuming until you taste it. Sharp, peppery, and alive, somewhere between arugula and mustard greens. It emerges in late winter, grows fast in cold soil, and keeps producing fresh leaves when lettuce won't even sprout. You can harvest it like cut-and-come-again lettuce, taking outer leaves and letting the center regrow. By midsummer, it sends up yellow flowers, also edible, with a hint of spice. Divide the roots every few years and you'll have enough to share with neighbors. It's tough enough to grow in poor soil and mild enough for partial shade. And there's something comforting about seeing green life pushing through frost while the rest of the garden still sleeps. It reminds you that not all seasons are endings, some are just pauses. Now meet a crop that can live longer than most dogs. Sea kale is a coastal perennial that can produce food for 20 years from a single planting. It thrives in salty air, sandy soil, and even drought. In early spring, its tender shoots push up before almost anything else, delicate, asparagus-like, and delicious steamed or sautéed with butter. Later, you can harvest the broad blue-green leaves and mild flower buds. It's one of those crops that tastes like the sea smells, clean, mineral, slightly briny. For small-space families, sea kale is a dependable anchor plant. It fills bare garden corners and holds soil where rain might wash it away. It also draws pollinators with its clusters of white flowers in early summer. One more example of a plant that gives more than it takes. When food feels uncertain, sea kale offers reassurance. Food that wakes up before you do. Last in this cluster is a true forgotten hero. Good King Henry fed European families for centuries before disappearing from gardens. It's related to quinoa and spinach, and every part is useful. Shoots like asparagus, leaves like spinach, buds like broccoli. It prefers partial shade, making it perfect for that awkward corner behind the shed or under a tree canopy. Once it settles in, it needs almost nothing. No fertilizer, no fuss. And it returns year after year, one of the few greens that actually thrives in low light. If you're growing with children, this is an easy one to share. Safe, hardy, and fun to harvest. The first spring shoots taste buttery and mild, perfect for omelets or soups. By summer, the broader leaves take over, giving a steady supply of greens long after lettuce has wilted. For families wanting year-round food security, Good King Henry represents the quiet middle ground between wild foraging and home gardening. It grows itself, but still feels domesticated enough to belong near the porch. Each of these greens gives you something rare in modern life: continuity. They connect one growing season to the next, linking family meals across time. You don't need seed trays or perfect soil, just a willingness to let the garden mature naturally. When you plant perennials, you're not just growing food, you're growing a little stability in an unpredictable world. Next, we'll look at the crops most people overlook, the weeds, flowers, and forgotten foods that quietly fill your table when others fail. Sometimes the most resilient foods aren't in tidy rows. They creep in from the edges, between paving stones, along fences, under trees. They ask for nothing, yet they feed us when pampered crops give up. These are the wild and forgotten treasures, foods that have been with humanity for centuries, quietly waiting for us to remember them. Purslane is technically a weed, and that's exactly why it deserves a spot in your survival garden. It grows where others can't, in cracked sidewalks, driveways, and dry compacted soil. Most people pull it out or spray it, but this humble plant is actually one of the richest sources of omega-3 fatty acids you can eat. Its leaves are thick and succulent, tasting lightly lemony and salty with a gentle crunch. It thrives in summer heat and drought when tender greens like lettuce have wilted away. You can eat it raw in salads, sauté it like spinach, or add it to soups for a bright note. And once you have it, you'll have it forever. It reseeds easily and spreads quietly, becoming a permanent part of your landscape. If you have children, show them how this so-called weed can turn into a refreshing snack right from the garden path. It's a living lesson in gratitude. Resilience can be beautiful, even between the cracks. Next, a fruit that feels like a secret gift. Each tiny golden globe hides inside a paper lantern, a husk that protects it from pests and helps it store for weeks without refrigeration. That's the ground cherry, sometimes called the pineapple tomato. It tastes like a mix of vanilla and tropical fruit, sweet enough for desserts yet fresh enough to toss into salads. Once established, it reseeds generously, filling empty corners with surprise volunteers each summer. A single plant can yield several pounds of fruit. Leave them in their husks and they'll keep for nearly a month on the counter. No electricity, no fuss. Kids adore them. There's a little magic in peeling back that papery wrapper to find something so bright inside. And for families looking to replace store-bought fruit snacks, ground cherries are nature's answer. Portable, shelf-stable sweetness grown at home. You've probably seen them already, those orange or yellow blooms along driveways and mailboxes. But did you know that true daylilies, the Hemerocallis species, are fully edible? Every part, the shoots, buds, flowers, even the tubers offer something different. The flower buds cook like green beans, the tubers taste faintly like sweet potatoes, and the petals add color to salads or stir-fries. They spread easily and come back each year, so you may already own a hidden food source. Now, a small safety note. Make sure you're harvesting genuine Hemerocallis daylilies, not true lilies, Lilium, which can be toxic. And as with any new food, try small amounts first. A few people have mild sensitivities. Once you've confirmed the right plant, you'll find that a single patch of daylilies can feed your family in several ways across the season. Early shoots in spring, buds in summer, flowers through fall. That's a remarkable gift for something most people grow purely for decoration. Our final forgotten treasure isn't wild, but ancient. Amaranth was once a sacred grain across the Americas, and it deserves a return to modern backyards. This plant gives you two crops in one, leafy greens through summer and thousands of tiny grain seeds in fall. The leaves are nutrient-dense, packed with vitamins and minerals, and taste like mild spinach. The grain is naturally gluten-free, rich in protein, and unusually high in lysine, a rare amino acid in cereals. You can pop the seeds like popcorn, cook them like oatmeal, or grind them into flour for pancakes. Amaranth thrives in heat and poor soil where other crops falter. And because it grows tall, sometimes 6 feet or more, you can interplant it with shorter vegetables to save space. Its bright seed heads and red stems also make it a stunning ornamental, proof that a survival garden can still be beautiful. For families teaching kids about self-reliance, amaranth shows the full cycle of food, from leafy lunches in July to stored grain in November, all from one humble seed. Each of these plants tells the same quiet truth. Real abundance isn't about rarity, it's about relationship. Once you notice what's already growing around you, your sense of security shifts. The lawn becomes a pantry, the fence line a fruit patch, the cracks in the driveway a source of greens. Up next, we'll finish strong with crops built for small spaces, foods that climb, stack, or multiply fast, turning even the tiniest yard into a dependable kitchen garden. Not every family has a field to work with. Most of us grow in corners, between the swing set, beside the fence, along the porch steps. That's why the smartest survival crops are the ones that grow upward, downward, or all by themselves. They multiply quietly, need almost no space, and fit the rhythm of everyday life. Let's look at 4 foods that make the most of every square foot, the kind you could grow even in a townhouse yard or sunny balcony. Imagine an onion that plants itself. Walking onions form little bulbs at the top of each stem. When those bulbs get heavy, the stalk bends down and sets new roots where it touches the ground. That's how it walks, one small clump slowly migrating across your garden. Every part is edible. The green tops work like scallions, the bulbs taste sharper than store onions, and the top bulbils can be pickled or replanted. They're practically indestructible. Drought, frost, neglect, it doesn't matter. Even if you forget about them for a season, they'll be waiting when you return. For families, walking onions are the ultimate low-maintenance flavor base. No seed packets to reorder, no waiting months for bulbs to cure, just snip what you need and let the rest keep walking. Now from the garden bed to the shady side of the shed. Oyster mushrooms turn what most people throw away, fallen logs, cardboard, straw, into food. They're among the easiest fungi to grow at home. You buy a little spawn, tuck it into damp logs or buckets of pasteurized straw, keep it shaded, and within weeks, mushrooms appear like magic. Each log can fruit several times a year for up to 3 years. And because oyster mushrooms grow vertically, they take up less than a closet's worth of space. They're rich in protein, up to 30% of their dry weight, and contain all essential amino acids. For small yards, this is food alchemy, recycling pruned branches into dinner. It's also a wonderful family experiment. Kids can literally watch mushrooms double overnight. A calm reminder that even in shade, life finds a way to feed us. Regular spinach bolts and dies once the heat sets in, but Malabar spinach is just getting started. This tropical vine loves heat and thrives when temperatures climb past 90. It races up fences, trellises, or porch rails, covering them with glossy, heart-shaped leaves. The leaves are thick and juicy, slightly mucilaginous when cooked, perfect for soups, curries, and stews where you'd normally use okra. In warm climates, it self-seeds and returns each year. In cooler areas, save a few berries for next season's planting. Because it grows vertically, Malabar spinach can feed a family of 4 from a single square yard of soil. It's the ultimate summer green for tight spaces, lush, beautiful, and endlessly renewable. And here's a small secret. Chickens adore the trimmings, so nothing goes to waste. The garden loop stays complete. We started with sunchokes for their underground reliability, but they also earn a second mention here as space savers. Why? Because they grow tall and dense, forming natural windbreaks and privacy screens along fences. Behind them, you can tuck shade-tolerant greens or mushroom logs, using the same square footage twice. By midsummer, those bright yellow flowers draw pollinators from across the neighborhood. And below the soil, the tubers multiply quietly for next year's meals. A single row of sunchokes can feed your household and protect the rest of the garden, an edible wall of resilience. Together, these crops transform small spaces into living pantries. They climb, they spread, they store, doing the quiet work of stability in the background of family life. And once you've seen food thrive in the tiniest corners, it's hard to ever call your yard too small again. So, there you have it. 16 crops that don't just feed you once, but keep feeding you, quietly, season after season. From roots that store themselves underground, to greens that wake up every spring, to wild foods already hiding in your yard. Every one of them teaches the same lesson. Resilience doesn't have to be loud. Real food security isn't about stockpiling or fear. It's about rhythm, learning which plants can handle a missed watering, a cold night, or a busy week, and still keep growing. When the power goes out or the store shelves look thin, these plants don't notice. They just keep doing what they were made to do: feed life. Each one rewards patience more than perfection. You don't need acres or fancy gear. You only need a few steady habits, a small patch of soil, a compost pile, a willingness to keep learning. Start with 2 or 3 crops that spoke to you today. Maybe a pot of Malabar spinach on the balcony. Maybe a patch of sunchokes behind the fence. Watch how quickly that small act builds confidence. Because something changes when you can walk outside and gather dinner. It's not just the food, it's the feeling that your home, your soil, your daily effort all connect. That's what makes small space gardening so powerful for families. It's not a trend, it's a quiet kind of independence. Here at Family Yard Kitchen, we share that rhythm every week. Practical ways to grow real food at home using what you already have. Our goal is simple: help ordinary families build calm self-reliance, one small harvest at a time. If this video gave you an idea or inspired a new crop to try, I'd love to hear about it. Tell us in the comments which one caught your attention, or which you're already growing. That's how we all learn together. And if you'd like to keep building your own small yard food system, take a look at our book, Veggie Matchmakers. It's full of companion planting ideas that show which vegetables grow best side by side, saving space and keeping your soil healthy. Think of it as a field guide to harmony in your backyard. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Remember, resilience isn't about growing everything. It's about growing enough, calmly, and knowing that dinner is still forming quietly behind your fence. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.